Hello there, and thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. This is the Callidus Assassin. This is the last assassin I'll be painting for this commission, and I had a pretty good time with it. It was a nice breath of fresh air. It was pretty easy. So here I'm just basing it black, and that is all of the assassins are base black, honestly. Like all four of them I was able to paint in pretty much the exact same style, and the only differences were when they had something specific about their character. For example, this one has green on the gun, which none of the others have. But they all seem to share the same type of black and a little bit of the red. So on the second step, what I do is I dry brush with the uniform gray. And the reason why I do that next is because I want it to be all over the model so that when I do the blue wash, those highlights get a tint of blue. And if you look at the box art for these models, they almost look like it's nighttime around them. And I think that's what that blue kind of feel gives off. And after the blue, I go and I do all the silver bits. So when I got this model in, she had come already built, but her gun arm was missing and her ponytail had broken off and was just lying around in the box. So what I ended up doing was buying another Callidus assassin, and then when she came in, I just took off the arm and put that right onto this one. So now I've got, you know, the rest of an assassin sitting in a box that I'll probably never use. But I wanted to talk about the hair specifically, and when I shipped this model back, I tried my best to make sure that the hair wasn't in a position that it would just break again back on its way back to the client. But man, the hair, it was super flimsy, and even after I had glued it, I had to wait. I mean, I must have waited a day before it had stopped being so flimsy, and it was just the normal plastic glue, so it had to kind of melt together. But it was just really weird how that hair stuck on there. So it was a little bit frustrating trying to paint the hair, because every time I went to go and dry brush it or to paint on it at all, it seemed to move a little bit and her hair would just get all wonky, and I just was afraid that it would fall off. It's definitely a cool design, but it's also pretty easy to accidentally break off. So once again, for the red here, I used Dragon Red, which is just my all-time favorite red. But what I found is that if you go over the Dragon Red with the red wash, it really helps to deepen up those colors, and it looks so good after it. And then once I was done with the red, I went in with the gold, and there's only a couple gold bits on her. And after the gold, I did her sword. And I've used this trick before with a sword where you can basically take any color and you mix it with silver, and it gives you that color in a more metallic version of it. And so I just mix green here with the silver, and I think that it's a nice outcome. I'm not too familiar with non-metallic gold, and I haven't attempted it or even bothered to learn it yet. I've just never had it come up where I felt like, oh, I need to learn non-metallic metal. It's probably a good technique to have in the bag, but for me, it just hasn't come up yet, and that's okay. The next couple parts here are me taking the base colors, lightening them up, and then go over as a highlight. So I'll mix the red with a little bit of white to get a brighter red and go over just the top parts of the red. And I do this with just about every color. In fact, this is kind of a technique that I feel like I've adopted for myself, and I don't know who I adopted it from or where I saw it. Maybe I just came up with it. But basically, what I try to do is I do all the base coats, and then I'll take those same colors, mix them with a little bit of white, and then go over again for the highlights. And I feel like it's really worked out for me, because I don't even have to think about what the next color is. For example, with the red, if I use Dragon Red, do I use pure red next, or do I go to pink next, or what is the name of the color that I have to use next? And I don't really want to worry about that, especially on these one-offs. So what I do is I'll put down some red, and then I'll mix that with white, and now I've got my highlight, and just slap that on and do that for all of the different colors. So what happens is I end up with everything base coated, and I could stop there. I mean, I could be done and say, yep, this is my standard paint job. It's just a flat base coat for everything. But to bring it up to that next level is the highlights, and sometimes that's 2 or 3 layers of highlights, because you'll have the next highlight is just a little bit brighter, and then the next one is a little bit brighter than that last one, and you just keep going up, and you can do this for a while. But in general, for me, it's 2 or 3 highlights. So the next part here is all the exact same technique for the green. Is I dry brush the base color of the green that I want, and then I add a little bit of white to that, and then dry brush a little bit brighter, and that's kind of what gives me this glowing green effect on this weapon. And because I'm impatient, I use a hairdryer to quickly dry things up so I can move on to the next step. Which here again we see that technique where I dry brush the base color, add a little bit of white, do it again, and it just keeps adding those layers. And I'm not sure where this came from, but it's something that is really working for me, and I'm just happy with how quick it is for me to move on to the next step. After painting the rock, it's just adding the base here, which is the Army Painter rocks, Army Painter tufts, and grass, and that really pulls it together. I know that these tufts are self-adhesive, but I don't really trust that, and I always end up adding a drop of glue to the bottom of them. And of course we always do the rim black. I've had some people who wanted a different color, but for the most part, if they don't specify, I do it black. I think it looks good. And here for my favorite step is the varnish. I just started using this Vallejo varnish, and I think it's good. I was using the Army Painter varnish, and I can't say for sure that I'm noticing a huge difference. I'm gonna have to do a test where I paint the same model and then do a Vallejo and then do an Army Painter varnish. I'm using the gloss varnish on both of them and just kind of see, if it really makes a difference, but who knows. But don't let that kind of question keep you from using one or the other. Just pick one and use it. Well, that is the Callidus Assassin. Thanks for hanging out. We'll talk to you later.